All right, well, the trade deadline is in 2 days. Thursday, 4 p.m. is the official NBA trade deadline. The Cavs don't have a ton of money at the moment. They don't have a ton of assets, and they may or may not be looking to make any type of deals. So what we figured we'd do today, and we're going to talk a little bit about this in a different way tonight on the Ultimate Cavs Show, but what we're going to do today is look at some potential targets that the Cavs could look at. I broke these into 3 tiers.
Let's see if you got my board.
I have your dream tiers, which are it'll never happen. The Cavs do not have anywhere near the assets to acquire, but in a dream world where they would take, they trade $1 for a penny, then the Cavs could get these guys.
Okay.
Then I have the probably too pricey category, where I don't think, barring some catastrophic, I'll take a quarter for $1 situation it would happen, but we'll throw them in. And then I got 5 guys who are at least realistic candidates, and you guys tell me if any of these guys is in the realistic candidate list. We'll go to that one last.
Do you have my category?
Piques your interest.
Do you have my category?
Not going to happen.
They ain't doing anything.
Well, that's why I said I don't think I'd do anything, but
I just want to see
I broke these into categories.
The probably it could happen. I want to see.
Okay. Well, let's start with the dream candidates. And once again, the dream means it's not going to happen. This is if another team would take a penny in return for $1. It's not going to happen, but let's have some fun. The dream candidates would be Cam Johnson, the small forward of the Nets, LeBron James of the Lakers, and Jason, you said you wanted a backup point guard potential. That's an area you think they could look to address potentially at the deadline if they were to make a move. Alex Caruso is a proven veteran at the position, plays great defense, is a 41% shooter from 3 this season.
He does.
He would be a great fit on this Cavaliers team, but once again, these are dream scenarios that 99.99999999999% would never happen.
Yeah, they ain't giving up.
Fair? All 3 of these too high priced?
Yeah, they're not
too much
these
to dream?
guys.
Okay. We can move on. Let's go to the probably too pricey. The probably won't happen. 98.5% chance these guys cost too much. But 5 guys I thought could be fits if the price was right, but I don't think the price is right. I don't think the Cavs have the assets to acquire any of these 5 guys. You have DeAndre Hunter in Atlanta, Dorian Finney-Smith with the Nets, Bojan and Bogdanovich, one with the Pistons, one with Atlanta, and then another backup veteran point guard, Jason, kind of fitting into you here, but Malcolm Brogdon, the often injured but when healthy, talented point guard for the Blazers, another veteran presence, ball handler. And sneaky thing with Brogdon, he's like a 94% free throw shooter. So a guy at the end of the games who, if he is healthy, absolute clutch, and he's a three-point shooter as well.
I like Bogdan from Atlanta.
The Cavs have kicked the tires on Bojan a couple times, but the price was too high, and he's not coming here.
Yeah. So
But in past years, they've looked at him too.
But so that's in the right category. Probably too pricey.
Yeah.
None of those guys
That
really.
boy
So
can
What's
shoot.
Brogdon's contract? Do you know?
which
Top of your head?
one? Bogdan or
Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh, Brogdon. I believe he's on the. I'll look it up. I think he has 2 years left.
Yeah, I didn't think he was an expiring.
I'll tell you
It
right
was-
now. I
it
should know this.
It doesn't matter.
It was-
It doesn't
He's
matter.
got
Shooters on that list.
another year after this. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
it
not an
doesn't
expiring. So he's under contract for $22.5 million next year, which is why he's once again
that ain't
probably too pricey. Yeah, probably too pricey.
That ain't happening.
So let's get to the realistic guys. The guys, if the Cavs are to make a move, and we'll talk about whether we think they will or won't tonight, but if they are to make a move, these are guys that I think would fit into the parameters of players the Cavs could acquire. You got Royce O'Neal, the 3-and-D wing of the Nets, Corey Kispert of Washington, a 6'7" shooter, not a great defender, but if you want to add a little more size and shooting. Santi Aldama, who I'll admit I did not know existed till last Monday when they played the Grizzlies. And he's a 7-footer who made 3 threes against them. And I was like, ooh, what's his contract? Expiring. Oh, might be a nice fit. Simone Fontecchio of the Utah Jazz, a 6'7" Italian, first year in the league. He's like 28, 29 years old, had a nice European career before, but another guy who can shoot. And I actually kind of like his potential. He may not be a rotation player this year, but a guy I think who could play later than Sadiq Bey of Atlanta. Atlanta's just kind of blowing stuff up if they want to. They have the ability
they got
to.
everybody on their block.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of these guys in the Nets, too, had a guy in the realistic, the probably too pricey, and the dream scenario. So these are 5 guys I think, theoretically speaking, if the Cavs were to make a move, they could acquire with the assets they have, and they fit money-wise. But do any of these guys on this list right here, do you think they move the needle at all for the Cavs?
No.
Or any of the immediate upgrade?
No.
Who are they going to acquire before Thursday that they can put into their rotation right now? They're already trying to fit 10 into 9, and I don't see anybody on that list that's a better fit than what they have currently. That's a big
Not on
reason.
that list, or maybe on the other list. You could on the
Sure, yeah.
On the probably too pricey, which
you
is
could get-
unrealistic list.
But
Yeah.
that list, no. You better off with what you got.
I look at the Cavs roster, and they do have some pieces if they want to make moves. Like, you could, theoretically speaking, package LeVert and Wade and some second-round picks to make a $20-ish million contract work.
I hear everybody high on the Coro now.
Well, that's the other part of it. You can go Okoro.
If you're not planning on re-signing Okoro, then you could dangle him now because he's up after this year.
But that's such
qualifying offer next year.
That's such a vital defensive piece.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
You're not going to get something without giving up something.
I agree. I mean,
but I think he's done enough.
It depends on the piece.
He's improved enough as a 3-point shooter to at least give him the opportunity. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you, teams aren't going to guard him, and he better make those shots in the playoffs.
Would you trade him?
No, because I think your window is right now. Mm-hmm. You got to win right now.
Yeah.
And I think what he provides, what he gives you, is more than what you're going to get back for him.
Even on them two pricey lists.
But the too pricey, Okoro doesn't make a lot of money.
He's
is
on his
the
rookie
issue.
deal.
Yeah,
He's on his
so
rookie deal.
if you're going to get one of those guys,
Oh yeah, never mind.
he's going in a package with LeVert.
Right.
And with that's what it's. You got to think money and assets. It has to work both ways in the NBA. And the Cavs are close to the luxury tax, so they're not going to be able to take in money unless they match it or come close. I forget the exact rule. Is it 15%, 20%?
They've got $3 million right now under the tax line, and you don't want to go into the tax now. Like that's the worst thing. They're not going to. You're not going to go over. I wrote that you don't want to go over the tax by $10 or $100 or in this case $1 million. If you're going to go into the tax, go into the tax.
Yeah.
Start the repeat offender clock. Do it over the summer. Get a big time impact player, like that sort of thing. You don't go over to the tax at the deadline by a couple of million to add a guy who may or may not fit in your rotation in May and June. That doesn't make any sense.
The way I looked at this was, if there was a guy that I thought they could realistically acquire, financially and asset-wise, that was a definitive upgrade over their top 8, I'd consider it. Mm-hmm. I can't find anyone who makes sense in terms of the money, asset, return value for what you're giving up. That is a definitive upgrade. And I don't think it makes sense to dip your toes in the tax or give up on a guy like an Isaac Okoro, who is obviously young and promising, or even a guy like Dean Wade, who I think, despite the numbers not being exuberant, is crucially valuable to the makeup of this team.
Oh, I'm going to tell you
That's
right
an immediate upgrade. I just don't know who that player is that
a-
comes in and immediately says, oh, yeah, we have him now. That changes our ceiling.
I'm going to tell you right now, you better be glad that Garrett isn't on this set right now. Because if he was, he would tell you we can't afford not to give up, not to get none of these pieces. That's what he'd tell you.
And
Garrett, I'm speaking. G. Bush, I'm here for you.
You want to do your best G. Bush impression? Let's see.
Listen. I watched this same team last year lose in the first round of the playoffs. Ain't nobody, listen, we got all these guys. We done developed, and it's been cool. Dean Wade's been cool. Sam Merrill, cool story. I told y'all about Sam Merrill. But listen, that ain't getting it done in the postseason. Listen, these guys said the lights was bright last year. We got to get us some dogs in here that we know can win us games. I trade everybody. I trade the whole team and give me some big-time players up here to get us going. Because if we don't get to the championship this year, we already might lose out on Donovan Mitchell. So we might as well go all in on this year anyways. Forget the tax. If it don't work, if the Donovan Mitchell deal don't work out anyways, Kobe getting fired. It's not his responsibility anyways. So go all in on this thing and go get you one of them. You know what you should go get one of them dudes that Mikey said we can't even get. That's who you should go spend all your money on. That's what G. Bush would tell you.
Can I add to the G. Bush thing?
Go ahead.
All right, fellas. we don't mean to make a trade. We got Monty Bates in the G League. And in 2 months, he gonna be averaging 23 points a game in the NBA. He was shooting 62% from 3 and 39% from the floor.
He got all his games in the NBA still.
He don't need to play defense. That's what Evan Mobley's for. That's what Jared Allen's for. That's what I said Curl's for. He was standing in the corner, whack, 3, whack, 3. Ooh, a Monty Bates dance, whack, 3. Just call him up. Sorry, I don't know why that's my G. Bush impression. I don't know where that came from. Sorry, G. Earl, you want to add on? You got a G. Bush impression?
I got some more questions. So I said this yesterday, Jason. Internet went crazy. First of all, everybody think that everybody at UCSS, we don't know nothing about basketball at all. Me, Mikey, Jason, Tyvis, Jay, Bull, and G. But I've heard Jason talk a lot about this team has all the pieces. They're just young. They need to grow. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, you had to give them an opportunity to fail and learn from it. They failed last year miserably. It was terrible.
All right, so
now you got to give them a chance to learn from it.
So I'm tying this into a few more points. Mike, you pointed out, you had the data to back it up, that the Cavs' best lineup is what it is. You had the plus minus, etc. It's the best move for the Cavs internally, trying to figure out how to create a second lineup as dominant as the lineup that you put together. Like, instead of going to trade for somebody, it's the best move, taking all this depth, all the pieces that you have, and trying to construct a second lineup that's just as potent as the lineup that you talked about.
No, I mean, I still think at the end of the day, the Cavs at their peak, especially in the playoffs, when the biggest difference in playoffs and regular season is A, pressure, and then B, teams scheme game by game for you specifically. When you play 82 games in the regular season, Jason, you probably actually know this better than I do. You know, you're playing back-to-backs, your scouts, you're playing basic defensive principles for the most part, and it's not specifically game plan and tailored night in, night out to stop a certain team. And that's why I think it is crucial for Darius Garland to get back to the Darius Garland we had grown to love here in Cleveland, because when him and Donovan are on the court together, that's two guys who can create out of nothing. And without Darius on the floor, it's Donovan create and everyone else space and shoot, which has been utterly unstoppable since January 1st. But there are ways to stop that when guys aren't shooting 51% like Dean Wade is, 47 like these guys can't shoot. They can. I don't expect them to shoot that well in the postseason. So I think you need that secondary creator on the court. And that's why I think Darius Garland, when it's all said and done, is a non-negotiable in the Cavs' closing five.
Their starting lineup is their lineup for the playoffs. Like, those five guys are going to carry the bulk of the minutes. When you get in the playoffs, and the deeper you get in the playoffs, the tighter your rotation gets. In the first round, he's not going to play 10. You play 9, you trust 8. Ideally. You get to the second round, the third round, you're playing 8, trusting 7. You get to the finals, you might be playing 7, trusting 6. So, and by that, like, the 7th guy or the 8th guy or whatever is playing 8 minutes. You know, that end of the first quarter, start of the second quarter type thing, and that might be it, unless somebody gets into foul trouble. And when you're talking about all these Earl, when you were asking that, like, death lineup was stuck in my head. I felt like we were headed toward the death lineup conversation. I don't want to hear anybody talk about death lineup outside of Golden State. That team had some of the best shooters in the history of the game. It is disrespectful to any other one to try and come up with a death lineup, because that is beholden to Golden State and what that era was, because they did things. I remember when people were saying, and I might have been one of them, saying, you ain't going to win nothing as a jump shooting team in the NBA. You got to be able to play inside. You got to be able to do this and that. And they rebuilt basketball with the way that team shot the ball. There's no such thing as another death lineup. Now, the Cavs can have a really good lineup, and they can play versatile, and they can play 4 out, 1 in. If Evan gets hot shooting threes, you could go with a 5 out lineup. And the Cavs had that in their championship year when Channing was at the center. They were playing 5 on the perimeter. And teams, Mike Budenholzer was in near tears on the podium after games in that Atlanta series, like, anybody got any ideas what to do? I don't know what to do with this team. And the Cavs aren't at that level yet, but they've definitely got some terrific shooting.
I got a question for you. Last year, you were saying that JB makes his guys play defense for 82 games or whatever it is, and by the time they got to the postseason, that their legs were tired.
No, I said that the Cavs play hard every single night, and not a lot of teams do that. Very few teams do that, and they take games off, they take quarters off, and the Cavs from a couple years ago, that's how, before Donovan got here, I think that's how they won a lot of the close games. They just outplayed other teams. They just played harder than other teams. I don't know if necessarily their legs were shot by the playoffs last year. I just think that they were overwhelmed by the Knicks. It was a bad matchup, and they were overwhelmed by the moment.
And nobody plays more minutes or plays 82 games harder than the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Like, Tom Thibodeau runs dudes into the ground.
Yeah.
So that's It's a bad comparison to look at. And I'm not saying it's your fault, but, like, the Cavs may have played a ton of defense and a ton of minutes last year. No team played their starters more minutes than the Knicks, and they didn't look worn down.
Right.
So,
Right.
it kind of goes both
Well, the
ways.
only reason I was going to say that was I was going to say, since if that was a thing, usually the first time you experience that, your body isn't used to it.
Yeah.
Would they be better off this year because their body should be kind of used to it?
Well,
That's
the
what I was gonna say.
the luxury of playing 10 is you can really manage the minutes. Donovan's probably a tick or two higher than he's still playing. He's not playing as many minutes as last year, but only by a fraction. Last year he played the most minutes of his career, more than he ever did in Utah. And there was some grumbles about he was playing too much and playing too many minutes. His minutes this year are very, very close to where they were last year. He could probably stand to come down another tick or two, but everyone else is right around that 33-minute marker. So no one's really, because when you can run 10 deep, you can really manage everybody's minutes and you can keep them down to where they should be fresh.
And I would
come
expect
April.
Donovan's minutes to come down slightly now that Darius is getting healthy, and
Yeah.
they can stagger more of the primary ball handler, point guard situational roles as they go forward. So to put a bow tie on the trade deadline,
But
combo,
also, yes, you can bring his minutes down, but also using the regular season to build good habits for the postseason, Donovan and Darius have to play together.
Yeah,
And they got to figure that out.
I
So you
didn't mean
need
full
them-
stagger.
Yeah.
I just meant,
Yeah. There's times where you can trade off.
and Donovan, when he was playing when Darius is out, I don't want to call them hard minutes versus soft minutes, but when you're the primary playmaker on offense, there's not really a time to get off.
Right.
There are possessions Donovan can take off of him and Darius are on the court,
Yes.
where Darius becomes the primary playmaker.
Yeah.
Donovan kind of stands off in the corner. So it's a less hard, I don't know the right word. You know what I'm trying to say, though? Like, it's a less taxing
Yeah.
minute total. So to put a bow tie on the trade deadline potential,
It ain't happening.
we all in agreement.
It ain't
Probably ain't going to happen
happening.
for the Cavs.